Hello, it's train time again, and I'm Karen Christensen, your host, with Matt Silber again, who has quite a tale to tell us about his adventures traveling by train in New England. And just keeping in mind that not everyone who listens to this will know our geography. So, I'm, Matt will explain, but he's also written a very detailed piece. So thank you for that, Matt, which is I
Mhm.
mean, it's quite I loved he actually then rates each train he took. I love it. I
It was
just
funny because I wasn't sure how I was gonna record the experience. I definitely wanted to, and I ended up doing both a video and a little article, and everywhere I went, I pulled out my notes app, which I have here, I can, and this is
Uh-huh.
how long it was. Because everywhere I went, I was writing stuff down. So really, like, I ended up having to shorten that article a little bit just because I wrote so much just
Wow.
in the moment, kinda cataloging everything.
And how interesting, becau so just, this is your show, explain to people how you decided to do it, what you're trying to sort of test or prove to yourself. Or and then to, convey obviously to your
Yeah.
friends, family, and fans,
Yeah, I mean, I would love to talk about it because yeah, like, to, um to answer your second question, what am I trying to convey? I mean, we've talked before about how passionate I am about and how passionate you are. That's why we connected about expanding rail accessibility and especially, regional rail network here in
uh-huh,
America, bringing it up to speed, so to speak, with the rest of the world, or well, a lot of other
uh-huh.
countries. I don't want to say the rest
Yeah,
of the world,
yeah,
everybody, but especially, I mean, especially countries in Europe, China, which we've spoken about before, which I know you're going to tell us about more later. And I just wanted to explore for the sake of comparison, which is going to be why it's going to be nice to hear from you in a minute, what it was like to try to do train travel for its own sake, and to show people how, train travel is often not really considered when people think about going from place to place or
mm,
traveling. Like we have road trips, which are so much fun. I love a good, driving down the open road. Me and my wife are planning one in the Southwest in February, which is gonna be a lot of fun. We have, I don't know if you're interested in, like, myths and legends. We have a cryptid road trip, but we're talking about trains, so that's gonna
I
be what
thought you were
we'll.
gonna do an alien road trip.
That's right, I
Alien
mean, that's kind of the
abduction
point.
road
We have
trip.
this idea of where we're gonna go to, like, see try to find the Jersey Devil and then Mothman and all that stuff. So if we could do it by train, maybe we can, but either way, the whole point was that
Mhm,
a lot of people don't really consider train travel as, like, a means of leisure.
mhm,
Most people think of trains, here in America as just being like, "Oh, well, it just gets people to and from work," essentially,
right. Yeah,
unless you live in the city. So I wanted to kind of prove that to people and myself, maybe
mhm,
you could structure your vacation around it. Like, if you wanna get to, from your home to this city or that city, how what would it be like? And I also have a lot of different friends in and around New England that I don't get to see enough of in general. So I thought by doing almost like I was like, "Well, maybe I could do these 2 things at once," and I did chart out a nice little loop almost
mhm,
through New England that, like, took me to see various spots and friends along the route. So yeah, I mean, the reason I did it was because I wanted to show how fun and accessible train travel can be for leisure, not just for work, and also to, see a lot of friends I haven't seen in a
mhm,
while. So yeah.
yeah. So, you started out where's your home station that you started out from?
Norwalk. So
Yeah.
I live in for anyone listening not familiar with the area, Norwalk is a city on the Long Island Sound in Connecticut, about an hour or hour 15 from New York City.
Mhm,
So relatively close, but not really, not super, super close. So a lot of people who commute into the city. So that's where I
yeah,
started.
yeah.
And then from there, I took the Metro North New Haven branch to New Haven proper.
Mhm,
And you would appreciate that. That was where, speaking of the third spaces that
mhm.
trains can
Yeah.
create, um, along the way, I was just taking pictures and taking notes. And I saw that one rider and a conductor were chit chatting and getting to know, like,
Mhm.
really clearly knew each other ahead of time.
Uh-huh.
and I had to be like, "Hey, I'm doing this blog for, like,
Uh-huh,
train time with Karen Christensen. We're talking about the role of third spaces in trains," and she was just this passenger who took it a lot. She lived in Stratford.
uh-huh.
I didn't catch her name, unfortunately, but I was like, "Can I get your picture of you guys?" And they were like,
Mhm.
sure, I guess. Why?" They were really nice, and we just chatted a little bit,
Uh-huh.
and she's from China, which I mentioned in my
Oh,
article.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm,
Um, and but was a regular. Yeah, eh, in the old days, there were also bar cars that people would essentially every day, they would meet up with the same group and have a beer on their way home,
mhm,
which really there was real camaraderie there. But I've seen it, yeah, commuters for sure, and a lot of people when I've read even about people taking Amtrak trips and those long distance trips they have a lot of that's the kind of vacation like retired people occasionally will fill those especially because some of them are really scenic, but apparently people are fairly um, talkative, congenial on them. I keep hoping to find time to take one of those. I haven't done
mhm.
that before.
You and me both. The It's definitely something that's on our radar too because
Yeah.
my sister lives out in Emeryville, which is
Uh-huh.
where
Oh, yes.
The California Zephyr terminates, not in San Francisco
Right,
itself.
right. Yeah.
So it would actually be really easy for me to get off and walk to my sister's place from there. Um,
And
that's
there's
definitely on the
apparently
agenda.
spectacular, the ones through the Rocky Mountains. I think isn't there a Cascade route?
Mhm.
Couple of routes across the country.
And you
Um
said that, like, retirees. I mean, retirees and me, like, I would love to do that. One thing I will say though is, it depends. The pricing for Amtrak is definitely an impediment for a lot of people. I don't know if
Yes.
you've when you take it, how it is. I was happy that for my trip, it was mostly pretty affordable.
Uh-huh,
The most expensive Amtrak, because what I did was I just took commuter lines starting off from Norwalk, then to New Haven. I spent some time in New Haven, and then I took Connecticut's Shoreline East commuter rail,
uh-huh,
not run by Metro North, run by Connecticut Department of Transportation, all the way from New Haven to New London, which is on, like, the east end of
uh-huh,
Connecticut. Um I forgot where I was going with that. Oh, yeah, but then I stopped in New London, met a friend, and then took the Amtrak train up towards Boston, but got off at Route 128, which is kind of in the Boston suburbs. That was the most expensive leg of the trip, and what I found was, like, frustrating was that Amtrak, it said $30 for that leg from New London to Route 128 outside of Boston
uh-huh.
one day, and then the next day when I checked, it was $70. So you're looking at,
Whoa!
like a 100% increase in price,
Yeah,
over one day, which is just I mean, that's how surge pricing works, there's limited seats, it goes it's all an algorithm, it's not just to make my life more difficult.
right.
Well, that was like,
But it would definitely put people off. They're gonna compare that to driving, and for sure, that
mhm.
is they're just not gonna, if they have the choice, they're not gonna do it.
And that's what, that's why, like, with this trip, I mean, I love trains, you love trains, it's fun, and I had a great time. I think for a lot of people, that's definitely the drawback. I mean, even with
Yeah.
if, like, taking this California Zephyr sounds like so much fun,
Mm.
but when you compare pricing and time, it's just like, for us, it's like, well, we could fly to San Francisco to see my sister, or we could take the train, it takes twice as long and costs twice as much on Amtrak, so
Absolutely. I've had trips I know when I was going to Denver, a couple times in the last, few years after the pandemic, to see family, and, I sat down and actually did a compare on time and money, and it just it really was impractical.
mhm.
It just in terms of time too, I was going, like, for a 2 or 3-day trip to see my mother, there's no way I could justify taking the
No,
time off
yeah, I
work
mean, if it's a 2
to
or 3
yeah.
day trip, you're gonna be you're gonna get off the train, say hello, and then get back on, like, with
Yeah,
the
yeah.
way the timing works.
And that's really a shame. They also the travel in the US is very slow. We'll, talk about that for the long distance trains. So, in modern terms, again, it ends up being recreational primarily,
Right,
which
which
is
is
not really what we're after.
right, which is fine for me as a person who loves it, if I had $1,500 to burn, I would be booking that California Zephyr tomorrow,
Yeah,
but I
yeah,
do think it's impractical. I mean, I guess unless maybe there's people out there who have a lot of money and are afraid of flying, but that's, like, the only
yeah,
people
and
who
that's a
come to
pretty
mind who would
select
regular use it, you
select
know?
group. Can you
Yeah.
explain the difference? Because it was something I didn't understand when I came to the Northeast. People always talk about there's commuter trains and then there's Amtrak, and when I lived in England, you didn't have that distinction. All the trains were just trains,
Yeah.
used for commuting or used for anything else. It's a very American distinction.
Mhm. I mean, Amtrak is the nationally run, train board. So yeah, here in the Northeast, we have a lot of different commuter rail systems. And that's in my little article. I'm sure we're gonna link it. I did put them in a tier list just for the sake of
Yeah.
comparison. But yeah, Amtrak is for like really, really long distance travel. Uh, but you do have these hubs of commuter trains. So, like for example, around New York, you've got the Metro North lines, you've got, the Hudson line, the Harlem line, and then the New Haven line, which was what I took on the
Mm.
first leg. And those don't go as far as Amtrak. So basically, like those are, they're centered around one hub. And Boston is the same way. They've got the MBTA,
Yes.
which I also rode.
Yeah.
But
And
besides
commuter
that,
trains are
yeah,
much they have the seats don't recline, they're not, they're not designed for distance travel. They tend not to have a lot of room for luggage. It's not like, where Amtrak trains have, room for luggage. They all have bathrooms of a sort. Um,
mhm, yeah.
um,
I
but
mean, the commuter line rails have bathrooms too. The quality,
yeah, yeah.
it's a
And
bit up in
some
the air.
Amtrak trains are pretty comfortable. They're all super old-fashioned looking to my mind, but,
Mhm, they are.
um, but but I remember I took one to see the pop-up rail in Western Pennsylvania, I happened to get some old train carriage that had, like it was like being in first class and on a plane. It was these
Mhm,
huge, very spacious, that was interesting, but,
yeah.
you would not on commuter rail, you're more like in a modern, economy class on a plane where you're just, sitting really
Yeah.
just you can't
Oftentimes,
move.
yeah, definitely. And,
Um,
like, what the
yeah,
Amtrak does have, like you mentioned before, is it has, like, a cafe car. So, when I
yes.
took it, it was very nice to be able to, like, hop on,
Uh-huh.
grab a snack and a beer, and then meet some other friends. Commuter rail, unfortunately, no more bar cars, which is too bad.
Right, right. So you went to Boston. W
Yeah, so what I
Yep,
did was I went from New Haven to New London, and then from New London to Route 128. So the
yep,
Amtrak line runs from Providence or from, excuse me, New London, Connecticut, through Providence up to Boston, and then I believe beyond, like, into New Hampshire and up to
uh-huh,
Portland, I think.
mhm.
I didn't go all that way. At Route 128, I got off, and my friend Colby, who lives around there, a couple towns over, he picked me up. He and his wife put me up for the night. My wife, Emma, who could not be convinced to come on the whole train journey with me, she came and met up with us there because they were old friends. And, so then we spent the night there.
Uh-huh,
Next day, I then took Massachusetts commuter rail into Boston. I got on the MBTA to Boston to
uh-huh.
see some other friends.
Mhm,
Mhm.
mhm. And I will say Matt's put a nice map in his we'll link to that so you can see if you're
Yeah.
not clear about where where he was in New
Mhm.
England. And then you
And I
headed
thought about
west, right?
so
Yeah,
yep, and then I thought so, like, we had discussed a little bit, I thought I might take Lakeshore Limited, which you wrote about in an earlier
yeah,
piece that it's closed down, so they have a connecting bus instead. So I thought about taking that all the way to Albany, seeing another cousin, then taking the Amtrak down to New York City, and then coming back up and making it a whole big
uh-huh,
loop. decided that would just be impractical, so I took the Amtrak
Mhm.
connecting bus to Springfield, Mass, which looks really nice. I wanted to spend more time there.
Uh-huh.
Then took another Amtrak train down to Hartford, Connecticut, and then for the last leg, I took an, Connecticut commuter rail Hartford line train
Mhm.
down to New Haven again, and then back to Norwalk. So
Uh-huh.
it was more like a spoon shape instead of
Uh-huh.
a complete circle, but yeah.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
And as you went along, so tell us your best experiences and then, the things that you felt could be improved.
Great question. That's so best experience, I rated the I'm actually gonna do best, surprisingly good and then bad, if that's
Yeah.
okay, because the
Yep.
best
Yep.
experience was Shoreline East in Connecticut. They
Uh-huh.
had the older rolling stock, so the cars, like you said, for Amtrak were very old-fashioned. They have to
Uh-huh.
be from, like, the '70s or '80s or something.
Uh-huh.
But I love them because they had, most commuter line trains, they just kinda face one direction, but these actually had sections where you have a bench and a table and another bench, which
Mhm.
I like just because they make it really easy, especially for friends, travelers who are traveling
Yeah.
together to sit,
Yeah.
bring food, get comfortable. Like you said, a lot of the commuter line trains, the modern New Haven line ones, they have outlets and stuff like that, which are really nice, but I don't think they're really designed to be that sort of amenable for people to
Yeah.
spend time together and just chat
Yeah. Yeah.
aboard the
Yeah.
train.
Yeah.
That was, I think, my favorite line, and the views were
Yeah.
just spectacular. Great views of Long
Right.
Island
Because the
Sound. Be
shoreline. Yep.
Yeah, it was really beautiful, and all the stations were really modern and stuff, so I really like Shoreline East gets
Mhm.
A plus, S tier for me for sure.
Uh-huh.
The most surprisingly good part was the Amtrak connecting bus, because Lakeshore
Oh.
Limited
Ok
trains are not running, and I was like, "I guess I'll take the bus,"
Yep.
and, I wasn't expecting much. They It was comfortable. I mean, the views were the highway, so, like,
Yeah.
if you've ever
Yeah.
been on an interstate before, that's what it looked like. But the seats were comfortable, and the Amtrak staff did a great job trying to make people feel comfortable and welcome. They made announcements, they brought waters and snacks down the aisle, so Amtrak,
Wow, I'm
great job.
pleased because I actually have to go to I'm going to Cambridge in, early October and also in February, and who knows if it'll be the train will be operating again, so that's good news for me. Thanks for testing that
Definitely,
out
yeah,
because I was feeling apprehensive.
happy to share the good news. It was and my expectations were low, so maybe I was just like, "Wow, this is not terrible," so, like, maybe I'm, like,
Yeah.
overselling it a
Uh-huh.
little bit, but
Uh-huh.
I
Uh-huh.
liked it.
Uh-huh.
I would
Great.
say, though, I'm sorry to say, I love Connecticut, very proud, Connecticut, Hartford line was the was the worst of them all.
Oh, so
Yeah,
tell us about
commuter
what
rail.
happened there.
Oh, it's funny how you say tell us what happened. It was not a big deal. The only
Uh-huh.
problem with the Hartford line was that, the cars were kinda not really well maintained. They're kinda dirty, like, where I was
Uh-huh.
sitting, like, I literally wiped
Yeah.
the film
Yeah.
of, like, dust off the windowsill,
Yep.
and all the windows were really fogged up for some reason.
Uh-huh.
I don't know, all of them were, like, I don't know if that was from people touching them a bunch, but anyway. And then the views were just not that great either.
Uh-huh.
The train itself was on time, so that was fine, and the stations along the route, between Hartford and New Haven were new and were modern and stuff, so the
Mhm.
stations were cool, but the train itself left a little bit to be desired.
Uh-huh.
I'd like to see Hartford Line do a little better.
Mhm. And what about the timing on your trip? How reliable were the trains?
So, great question, and last bad thing I'll mention was that, all of the trains were extremely reliable, all of them were on time, even the buses were almost to a T. We hit some traffic and they still made their stations in time, so that was really impressive, but worst one was Amtrak. When I went from New London to Route 128,
Uh-huh.
because I was there with a friend, we were grabbing lunch and a drink, and then I get a text saying like, "Hey, your train to Route 128 is gonna be 15 minutes late." And we're like, "Oh, okay, no big deal, like, we'll just hang out a little longer." And then we get another text, "Your train's gonna be 15 more minutes late." It's like, "Okay, like, I guess we'll just keep waiting here a little longer." And then we got a third text. So my train was delayed 3 times. Ended up being about 45 minutes to an hour after when they were supposed to
And that's
arrive.
not a very long train trip that you were waiting for either.
Exact and yes, and that's people will probably hear that. People who are more interested in cars will be like, "See, well, that
Uh-huh.
stuff doesn't happen when you drive." And I would counter by saying, "Well, you can hit traffic. Traffic can be unexpected, can be
Oh,
similar."
yeah, yeah,
But that was definitely the worst thing where it was just like,
yeah,
it was nice that Amtrak kinda kept us in the loop. It would have been nice if they were more accurate, so I would rather have just 1 message saying we're gonna be 45 minutes late rather than,
yeah.
here's 3 messages saying we're 15 minutes late, and
It
I don't know
doesn't
when it's gonna be another 15 or this
it's
is
a
the
little
real one.
right, and you wonder who's in charge? Who I mean, what's happening when that
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, you
yeah,
wonder, like, how can do you keep hitting different delays, or is
right.
there something, that, happened before and you thought you'd anyway, so
Yeah,
Amtrak,
yeah, so
work on that, but
yeah,
otherwise, the train the like you said, the Amtrak cars were extremely comfortable, and
yeah.
really homey and just nice, so,
Yeah,
like a
yeah.
first class
So it
plane
was
ticket.
a good experience. Alright, we're gonna link to Matt's, rather lengthy, but quite wonderful tour, where you can go right along with him on this, and, we hope it'll encourage other people to try out different lines and to what actually, the fact that you stop and see your friends along the way, I mean, you're really an advocate for train travel,
Yeah,
and
and
yeah,
it was like connection, like what we're
yeah,
talking about,
yeah,
like we've
yeah.
talked about, the opportunities that trains afford that connection, so that was
Yeah,
kind of the heart of it for sure, so
yeah,
listeners, look it up, start exploring train lines near you, see what you can find.
great, great
But
to talk to you, and we'll talk very shortly, about trains elsewhere. Thanks a lot,
sounds
Matt.
good.